Davao City webinar for English summative test construction based on most essential learning competencies. To formally start our webinar, please remain at ease for the singing of the national anthem and a prayer.
Sa ngalan ng Ama, at ng Anak, at ng Espiritu Santo. Amen. Tagapagkaloob ng lahat ng kaalaman at guro ng mga guro, bigyan po ninyo ng pagkalinga ang aming mga guro. Biyayaan ninyo sila ng kahandaang linangin ang aming murang isipan at huwag magsawa kapag di makahabol ang tinuturuan. Pagpalain nawa ang kanilang mga pusong nagdiriwang sa tuwing kami nagwawagi at nag-aalo sa tuwing kami nadadaig. Pagkalooban ninyo sila ng mahinahong pagtatiyaga sapagkat ang landas ng kaalaman ay hindi madali. Pagningasin ninyo sa kanila ang maapoy na diwang nagpapaliyab sa kagustuhan naming matuto. Tulungan ninyo silang makita ang galing sa bawat mag-aaral. Ang walang pagkauhaw sa karunungan at bagong kaalaman at karanasan ay di dapat katakutan. Turuan po ninyo silang masiglang abutin ng alapaap kasing tayo at mga nagawa nila ay napapakinabangan pa rin. Tanglawan po ng iyong mabuting halimbawa ang kaguruan upang makapagtayo sila sa pamamagitan ng kanilang pangungusap, upang makapagmahal sila sa pamamagitan ng kanilang isipan, upang makapagmahal sila sa pamamagitan ng kanilang puso. Siya nawa.
For this webinar, please help me welcome our Education Program Supervisor in English for her open remarks, Dr. Mayan Jumuad.
Hi, good morning, everyone. A very pleasant and kind of stressful morning to all of you. Hello. Sir Mel, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello?
Loud and clear. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. Thank God. My God. Okay, we started off, no, parang we started off on the wrong foot this morning, no? So I hope na we can be able to overcome all these mga obstacles along the way. This is, I think, part of the new normal na. Anyway, good evening, everyone. My respect to our DepEd CID Chief, Dr. Alma Cifra. Ma'am Alma's been here na since this morning very early, na siya sa office, and She came uh really in good shape talaga and everything, no? But the situation is not in favor. There are a lot of technical problems, but still, we would like to acknowledge Ma'am Alma. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your presence today. It's really an honor for to having your presence here with us. To our DepEd Davao City Division English teachers, competent writers, efficient evaluators, and hardworking illustrators, welcome to today's session for DepEd Davao City webinar for English summative test construction based on most essential learning competencies, otherwise known as MELCs for secondary and senior high school levels. We're supposed to have a separate webinar today for junior high school and senior high school, but due to overlapping activities and also for us to save time, we opted to merge the two levels. So hope the Google platform accommodates all of us today, no? And, you know, parang welcome us with open arms talaga. Sana. We will just keep our fingers crossed. So moving on, if you can recall, March 2020 made history for us as schools across the nation closed to curb the spread of the novel coronavirus. The quick shift to remote learning created academic disruptions to millions of students, especially to low income and minority students, and those who require special services. As the Philippine government urges for reopening of classes on August 24, we in the Department of Education must weigh options to address children's learning needs while keeping students and teachers safe. While government and health officials are doing their best slowing down the outbreak, we in the Department of Education Division of Davao City are collaborating to collectively respond and provide quality education for all learners of Davao City Division during these difficult times. Our job as teachers, writers, evaluators, and illustrators is to help everyone in providing quality education for all, even in these exceptional times. Various learning modalities are being considered, and we are few of those who made a step in addressing this educational concern. It is said that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Yes, we are bound to begin our journey of 1,000 miles, and this journey has just started now as we take a step for this webinar. First, on module write shop, then now on summative test construction. Your presence here in this webinar is truly making a big difference. As I look forward, I can see all of us taking that great milestone ahead, bringing with us the banner of hope and resilience as Filipinos as we face this global crisis. So to my dear writers, evaluators, and illustrators, as frontliners of the Department of Education, let us always see the brighter side of life. Let us instill in our minds that behind the dark clouds is a silver lining, as what Catriona Grace stated in her memorable Miss Universe pageant. That in every storm, a rainbow will cast light that will bring hope for everyone. COVID-19 pandemic may pose a great threat to our educational system, but on the other hand, it could be a catalyst for changing education in the Philippines. When I say change, it should mean change for the better. Many changes involve flexibility related to learners, changes in the calendar year, and more emphasis in blended personalized learning. Indeed, the pandemic has opened an opportunity to be creative and to implement practices that accelerate learning. Now, ladies and gentlemen, is the time to take a paradigm shift. Let us be prepared psychologically. Make remote learning the top priority and the physical learning as the alternative. So to my dear English writers, evaluators, and illustrators, heads up. Welcome to this webinar and most especially welcome to the new normal. Once again, a pleasant morning to everyone and may God bless us all.
Thank you, Ma'am May. Will please help me welcome Ma'am Jojane N. Hilbulingo.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, so I'd like let us all welcome our participants this morning. in summary, we have 15 writers from the junior high school grade 7. Um, we also have 12 writers from grade 8, uh, 5 writers from grade 9, and 13 writers from grade 10. Our evaluators also are all present this morning as I was checking one by one on the screen. And also we have our illustrators with us. So for those who are using their names as differently from your given names, you may please uh, send your complete name on the chat box because it's quite difficult for me to identify if you are using other names. Wala nang pang- Okay, so I think that's all. And welcome everybody to our webinar this morning.
Okay, thank you, Ma'am Jane. For the presentation of participants for the senior high school pool of writers, please help me welcome Ma'am Fatima O. Bringas.
Good morning, everyone. I would just like to acknowledge our writers and evaluators from the senior high school level. I will acknowledge them by subject areas because there are also, we cannot identify if they are grade 11 or grade 12 writers. So we have the subject areas, oral communication in context, media and information literacy. We have English for academic and professional purposes, writers and evaluators of creative writing, empowerment technologies. We have creative nonfiction. We also have 21st century literature from the Philippines and the world. We have reading and writing skills. And the last but not the least, trends, network, and critical thinking in the 21st century. Teachers, I would like to request you to please stay present in our chat box so that I could also write your names here in my notes. Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you, Ma'am Pat. To give us the rationale of this webinar, please help me welcome once again our Education Program Supervisor in English, Dr. Mayan Humuad.
Hello, good morning. Sir Mel, am I
Yes,
clear
ma'am.
or what?
Yes,
Choppy ba?
ma'am. Yes,
Okay, loud
ma'am.
and
Si Ma'am
clear
lang
or
po ang
choppy?
yes, ma'am. Loud and clear.
Okay, thank God. Anyway, okay, once again, a pleasant morning to everyone. Again, my respect to our CID Chief, Dr. Alma Cifra. She is here with us right now. You can see here on the lineup. Oh, she's there. Okay, good morning to you, ma'am. Thank you very much for gracing this webinar today. As we enter this webinar platform, some of you may wonder what exactly is the reason why we are all gathered here in this webinar. Some of you may have few complaints, no? Some of you may say, ano ba yan? Paulit-ulit na lang. Kaliwat ka ng webinars, windang na ang world, nagaluha-luha ang mata, or tinutok sa laptop monitors and screens, nanggahit na ang liog, sakit ang likod, a lot of complaints, a lot of whinings. You might be whining about those right now. But your whinings, ladies and gentlemen, lead us back to the current situation that is being faced by our educational system in this trying moment. In these times of lockdown due to the COVID-19, face-to-face educational functions and activities are being moved online using remote working sites and tools. Many of us are struggling with the adjustment to working and teaching online, especially those who have always taught in traditional classroom and are now being asked to rapidly regroup and prepare for a longer period of educational social distancing. Where do you begin and how do you manage the process? To address these concerns, we have managed to initiate Module Write Shop, which you are currently doing right now. And some of you happens to be finished already, so congratulations for that. So yes, we have managed to initiate Module Write Shops, and now we are going to intensify this by crafting a summative test that will measure the cognitive performance of our learners based on what they have learned from our modules. And this brings me back to the question, why are we here? Well, we are here because we want to be rolling out practical webinar on how to craft summative tests and take it to a higher level on a remote education platform. We shall be learning the technicalities and making the exam the traditional way, and at the same time, we shall know some techniques on how to present these exams online on a remote approach and in various approaches suitable to the present situation. Yung mga learnings ninyo during the webinars with Mark C sa DepEd ICTU will be of great help the moment we serve this recipe to our learners. So para tayong mga cooks and chefs ngayon, na nagluluto tayo ng mga different recipes na pwedeng ihanda for our customers. So we're basically our learners. So teacher ka na, cook ka pa. So ang galing-galing mo, di ba? So versatile ka. May iba, they want adobo recipe, may ibang adobo na may sauce, mayroon ding dry, may puti, may dark brown, depende yan sa gusto ng kumakain. It's the same way with our learners, including our parents. They have different preferences in the modality of learning that will suit them. Pwede modular sa mga walang gadgets and internet connection. Pwede online sa mga privileged learners or yung mga may kaya. Pwede rin radio-based instruction sa mga radio, sa mga may radio, and then TV-based instruction for those who have TVs at home. There are a lot of modalities to choose from. Our duty as teachers is to cook these recipes for them in whatever taste they want. That is the very reason why we are here right now. So, parang ginutom tayo, but seriously, um, we need to be flexible as teachers in facing this pandemic. We are being challenged, ladies and gentlemen. We are forced to stand amidst this ordeal. We are being pushed to our limits, making us march on with greater heights, crossing our boundaries in this crucial time. We are bound to be tough in this troubled moment. We are exhausted, we are drained, we are shattered, but we remained resilient as Filipinos. COVID-19 is taking so much from us, but it's also giving us something special. It's the opportunity to come together as one humanity, to work together, to learn together, and to grow together. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, let us all stand proud and be united as we enter the threshold of the new normal. Enjoy your webinar and never cease to learn. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Mame. Okay, we teachers provide learners with the opportunity to demonstrate their knowledge, skills, and understanding through an assessment task. But how do we know if we are giving an effective assessment? Please help me welcome F. Bustamante Central Elementary School Master Teacher 1, Dr. Michelle M. Palmera.
Good morning, everyone. My respect to
Morning,
our
Mami.
CID Chief, Dr. Alma Cifra. Ma'am, good morning. To our Education Program Supervisor, Ma'am May Ann Jumuad. Good morning, ma'am. To our participants, our writers, from the module down to the test construction activity that we are about to do, junior high school teachers and senior high school teachers, good morning. So at this point, I would be sharing with you about the effective students assessment and test development. But of course, I have two other co-speakers here later who would be discussing also the other portions of test development. I mean three, including Ma'am Devini. Okay, so since we are talking about assessment, do you have paper and pencil there? Or pen? Okay, good. Si Ma'am Judith meron. Okay, so we will have a short diagnostic test regarding assessment. Are you ready? Okay. Okay. Can you see the slide, Sir Mel? Okay po yung slide.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Ma'am Mitch.
Thank you.
Kita.
Thank you. Okay, so now we will start our pre-assessment prior to the talk that I'm going to share with you. Okay, you will answer the questions or the statements with a yes or no. Okay, number one, DepEd Order number 8 is the statement of the policy guidelines on classroom assessment K-12 basic education program. Number two, assessment is the joint process that involves teachers and learners. Number three, classroom assessment only gather quantitative data about a learner. Fourth, only learning competencies are being assessed in an assessment. Is assessment standards-based? Six, does zone of proximal development refer to the difference between what the learner can do without help and what he or she can do with help? Summative assessments occur at a certain end of a unit or period. 8. Does K-12 adopt cognitive process dimensions as guide in the formulation of assessment tasks and activities? 9. Learners may be assessed individually or collaboratively. And the last number, 10. Is assessment not necessarily used for adjustment of instruction? After I share my talk, we will go over with your answers. Okay. So here now, I'm going to discuss with you the effective assessment of students' performance and test development. How are we going to gauge as teachers playing the vital role in the assessment of the learner's performance if what we are doing is effective or not? Okay. So let us try to refresh ourselves about what is assessment. I know all of you here, oh, most of all of us here are really familiar with assessment because we've been doing that for years already in the classroom. But let us try to refresh ourselves since we are ought to make our summative assessment or our quarterly assessment using our MELCs or most essential learning competencies. So assessment, K-12 assessment framework is crafted in DepEd Order number 8 series of 2015. And everyone are already informed. Everyone were already part of the training as this has been discussed during our trainings in K-12. So assessment is a joint process that definitely involves teachers and learners. Okay, it's going to be the teacher and the learner in the classroom who would be working together to be able to make an assessment. Okay, take note, our learners are also part of making our assessment because this is in unison with our instruction. And our instruction involves also our learners. Okay? Later on, you'll know why our learners are involved in the assessment process. Okay? Definitely because they are the ones or they are the subjects of our assessment. Okay, we wanted to get to know the progress of our learners. Assessment is used to track their progress in relation to the learning standards and development of 21st century skills. Okay, so the learning standards which you can find in the curriculum guide and the 21st century skills, these are the skills which are unknown to them, but we are guiding them, we are facilitating them to be able to achieve these skills. Okay, so assessment provides basis for profiling. our students' performance in terms of their mastery of the learning competencies and the standards of the curriculum. So it's not solely the learning competencies that we are targeting to have for them to reach the mastery level, but as well as the standards. The standards there are the content standard and the performance standards. So it promotes also self-reflection on the end of on the part of our learners, and of course, they would have a personal accountability about their own learning. So our assessment should be reflective, okay, so that our learners would be able to know, I've mastered this portion. I think this competency, uh, I have less mastered this one, so I have to get to know that. That's why in gathering the data about our learners, we need not only the quantitative information, but we also need the qualitative information in which we can get from the reflection of our learners and also what they have shared, okay, in terms of their progress in the learning of the competencies and the standards. So classroom assessment methods should be consistent and should always be aligned with our curriculum standards, which is found or which is our curriculum guide, and as well as the classroom assessment methods. Okay, so our strategies would have a greater part in shaping our assessment or making our assessment effective for our learners. And definitely, it also measures the achievement of competencies by the learners. Here you can see the one that I've been sharing a while ago, that assessment is standards based. So here is a page of our curriculum guide, that's English 4. You can see that there is a content standard and there is also performance standard. Okay, these two um, should also be assessed or as part of our assessment. And these are our learning competencies, in which they are the ones we are using in our learning instruction. A. ZPD, or the Zone of Proximal Development by Vygotsky, is the theory base of the assessment of K to 12. Why? Because CPD, okay, involves what is known to the learners and what is unknown to them. And then in the middle, we are the ones guiding them. We are the ones facilitating what they know and what they do not know. Okay, so the assessment is committed in ensuring learner success. Okay, from guided to independent display of knowledge, understanding, and skills. CPD enable learners to transfer knowledge, okay, understanding, and skills successfully in future situations. Okay, so assessment also facilitates the development of learners HOTS, or higher order thinking, and 21st century skills. And this is what we are I've been sharing a while ago, that this is the one that is unknown yet. Okay, but because of our guidance, because of the facilitation of the teachers, this would be evident at the end of the grade level, because that is the end point, or that is the main goal of K to 12 curriculum. So here, as you can see, what is known and what is not known. And then in the middle of that is the ZPD, okay? That's the theory, ZPD. The skills too difficult for a child to master on his or her own, but that can be done, okay? Take note, that can be done with the guidance and encouragement from a knowledgeable person. And that knowledgeable person is the teacher. Okay, so the word there is guidance and encouragement only. Okay, so there is no spoon feeding at that part. We would be guiding, we would be facilitating, and we would be encouraging our learners to discover the skills that is already within them. So assessment would always adhere to that. Okay, so in assessment in the K to 12 basic education program, it recognizes diversity of learners inside the classroom. Okay? Two, the need for multiple ways to measure or measuring the varying abilities and learning potentials. And the role of learners as co-participants in the assessment process. So this would answer our question, how will I make my assessment effective? If you recognize this, okay? So you have to really deal with these so that you would be able to have an effective assessment for our diverse learners, for our learners with multiple ways or varying ways of learning potentials, and our learners that you would also involve them in the assessment or crafting of the assessment. Okay. So what will be assessed in the class? The learning competencies, the content standards, and the performance standards. So these are the things that you have to place in your mind. This is the main goal that we need to really put into our mind and in our hearts, that when we assess, we would these things would be evident in the mastery of our learners. Okay. Before, in 2012, DepEd Order number 73 has weighted, okay, the level of assessment this way. Okay, I think you're very much familiar with this K-pop. Knowledge, 50%, process or skills, that's 25%, understanding, 30%. Then the product and performance is 30%. But in K-12 right now, we are still adhering to this, but in a different manner. Okay? We assess our learners by adopting this cognitive process dimension as our guide in the formulation of our assessment tasks and activities. Okay? I know that some of you here are our test developers already, and you are very much familiar with this. So we are adapting this cognitive process dimensions in crafting our assessment. We have remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. And there you would be able to see the verbs being used there to link that what you have crafted in your assessment is under remembering, it's under understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. However, in the crafting of our quarterly assessment, we try to eliminate creating because the type of test that we are using is MCQ or multiple choice questions. Okay, so there you have it. The smallest portion in the pyramid or in the triangle is creating. Okay, so we would eliminate creating there. How was K-pop and the cognitive process dimension, which is adopted in DO8, okay, and assessment are related? Here, okay, the curriculum standards are the content standards and the performance standards. What in content standards, what should the learners know? And then in the performance standards, what can learners do with what they know? Okay, and then you would be linking that one with the competencies that you are going to formulate your questions. So in K-pop, in under knowledge, you would be using remembering and applying dimensions. Okay, so remembering and applying are most likely remembering is most likely the easy questions. Okay, they fall under easy questions. Here for the process, okay, under that one is in the dimensions, cognitive process dimensions, you have understanding, applying, and analyzing. Okay? So there you have it. We are still using collaboratively the DO73 and DO8. Okay, understanding, you have their understanding, applying, analyzing, and evaluating. There you would always have curriculum standards as well. Then performance or product, you would have applying and creating. But for the purpose of our quarterly assessment, we are eliminating creating portion in the making of our test. But in our summative tests inside the classroom, which is a weekly summative test or a monthly summative test, we can inject or we can use creating because we are testing three portions of our learners: the written work, the performance task, and the quarterly assessment. But for this time, the focus is more on the quarterly assessment since most of our assessments are already in place in our modules. Okay, you as being our module writers. Okay, there you see the flow where the student starts, what was their education like, and where do students end up. Okay, the very beginning of the assessment is the diagnostic test. Okay, so the diagnostic test would likely affect the strategies that students are employing outside and inside the class, and affects also our formative assessment. Okay, so but formative assessment affects the strategy, and the strategy affects the formative assessment. Our formative assessment are our assessment that is recorded but not graded, but is used for tracking the progress of our learners and how we would be able to make some adjustments with our summative test. Okay, so summative test there in has the formative test and the strategies affect the summative assessment. Why? Because primarily it's like a cycle. Okay, so when we have our learning competencies, content standards, and performance standards, they fall under the aims. What is our goal? And then with our goal, we do the action. The action there speaks about the instruction that we do inside the classroom. And our instruction would most likely or definitely would affect our assessment. So our instruction there would be the vital portion in the making of our assessment. And then our assessment would be our basis for us to make some adjustments with our action and with our learning goals. Why it affects the learning goals? Maybe the competency is quite heavy. Okay, so if the competency is heavy, what we are going to do is we will do unpacking of our competencies in the classroom. Okay, even in the modules, we do unpacking of our competencies so as to deliver and for our learners will be led to the mastery of the main competency. Okay, so that's why you see the arrow there. It's a cycle. So take note, when we make effective assessment, make sure that you have this flow in your mind. You have those things that is being recognized by the K to 12. And then in the test development, you would also have this one in your mind. As a summary, a fair assessment is one in which students are given equitable opportunities to demonstrate what they know and can do. Okay, that's under the standards, the content, what they know, the performance, and what they can do with that. So that's a fair assessment for our learners. An assessment is not only for grading, definitely, or ranking purposes, but it is used to inform our teachers about their instruction and how they would be able to make adjustments or how they would be able to make good educational decisions. Now, assessment is definitely integrated with students' day-to-day learning experiences rather than a series of an end of course test. Okay, as I've said, the self-reflection of our learners would also be accounted as qualitative information so that we would be able to craft an assessment that is suitable for all of them. Okay, let us keep this in mind that better assessment means better teaching. Better teaching means better learning. Better learning means better students. And when we have better students, they would be able to have better opportunities for a better life. Thank you. And now we will go back to our test quickly. Okay. Number one, what is the answer? Answer is yes. Number two, assessment involves teachers and learners. The answer is yes. Number three, we need only quantitative data. The answer is no. Definitely qualitative data as well. Or learning competencies are being assessed in an assessment? No. We have to involve also content standards and performance standards. Five, is it standards based? Yes. Align the items you write based on the standards and the competencies. ZPD, what a learner can do without help and what he or she can do with help. Answer is yes. Seven, occurs at a certain period of time. Yes. Eight, adopt cognitive process dimensions as guide in the formulation of assessment tasks. The answer is yes. Nine, learners may be assessed individually or collaboratively. The answer is yes. But for
Yes.
quarterly assessment, it's really no, because it has to be individual test for quarterly assessment. 10, is assessment not necessarily used for adjustment of instruction? No. Our results are used to
No.
adjust our instructions suitable to our learners.
No. Perfect.
There you have it. Thank you very much. I'm done with my part.
Thank you, Ma'am Mitch. So, there is a need for us to give the competencies to our students, especially during the exam or if the exam is incoming. Usually, they will ask, unsa man yun na atong pointers, ma'am? So, instead of giving them the topic, give them the competencies. Kasi mas malawak yung competencies, mas maraming books sa makikita kung competencies ang ating gagamitin o ibibigay sa kanila as pointers. So competency-based learning or education or CBE is not a new trend. It has received much attention over the past few years as more institutions develop programs. Our IPCRF is based on competencies. PNP's personnel are also following on that. What is unique about CBE is that it focuses on what students learn and not on the time spent in the classroom completing credits, especially now that we are experiencing pandemic. So in this approach, students work at their own pace to demonstrate mastery in the competencies necessary for their chosen field of study. To discuss us on unpacking of competencies for table of specifications development, please help me welcome Doña Carmen Denya, Senior High School Teacher 3, Sir Ernesto Baclaan Jr. Sir.
Sir, good morning. Good morning, everybody. My respect to our CIB Chief, Dr. Alma Cifra, our division or our Education Program Supervisor for English, Dr. May Jumuad, and of course, our senior high school and junior high school module writers, illustrators, and test developers. And everyone, good morning. So my task this morning is to help you unpack our competencies and prepare our table of specifications for our examination. Yeah, our first exam, okay, for our modular instruction or whatever blended modality that we'll be applying in the context of the global pandemic today. So may I request Sir Mel, please, for the presentation
Okay,
of the
sir.
slides.
Uh,
Thank you, sir. I hope I can be heard.
Nana, sir.
Wala pa, sir? Sila, sir.
Nana, sir.
Wala pa na flash, sir.
Okay, wait, sir. The window. Kana, sir.
I'm about to present to sir.
Kina, sir.
Nana, sir.
Wala ko
Nana.
biya sir.
Okay.
Na.
Na daw, sir.
Okay. So this morning we'll be learning about unpacking of competencies and preparing the table of specifications. And let us now proceed to defining a competency, because it's very important that we understand fully what a competency is so that we can respond to it correctly as well. So as defined here, the competency is defined as the statement which defines essential knowledge, skills, and values that students are expected to know and be able to demonstrate as indicators of understanding the content standard. So let me stress this time three terms: knowledge, skills, and values. Those are, of course, found in our competency. Every statement of a competency always has this: the essential knowledge, skills, and values. But the reality today is that our type of test, the one that we'll be preparing, the multiple choice type of test, is very constraining. It means to say that we could not be able to capture all the three different areas in here, like knowledge, skills, and values. This is how limiting our examination is. So we could not capture skills and values. That's realistic. But what we can be able to capture in the multiple choice type of test is only essential knowledge. Okay, so that's one thing that will guide us later. That is just a reminder to everybody that when we begin to unpack the competency, we start with finding out, okay, whether or not this could be captured by our paper pencil test, particularly the multiple choice type of test. Okay, so we proceed to the next slide. Competency defined for the second time. It's a set of knowledge, skills, and attitudes required to successfully perform a particular task. I think that's repetitive already. And then let me focus on the next definition of a competency. It says here, it's stated in specific terms. So since it's stated in specific terms, let us likewise understand what really are the constituents of a competency. So let's get to know them one by one so that we can properly come up with the right measurement tool for this matter. Okay, so we proceed to the next slide. The next presentation tells us of the connection among the CS, PS, and LC. Okay, as made mention in here, okay, for CS stands for content standard and PS for performance standard. And you can see the learning competencies in between. So it's something that can be found in the content standard or even in the performance standard. And of course, the learning competencies for English, English is very unique because as you can see, we have 8 different dimensions: reading comprehension, listening comprehension, viewing comprehension, vocabulary development, literature, writing and composition, oral language and fluency, and grammar awareness. But please take note that not all of these dimensions can be measured using a paper pencil test. Okay, there are limitations about this. For example, when we speak about listening comprehension in the context of our modular instruction, okay, in the school year, I think it would be impossible for us to develop a tool that will test the listening comprehension skills of our students, because of course our instruction this time is limited only to modular, okay, modular way of instruction. Okay, next we proceed to the structural analysis of a competency statement. May I ask all of you to please take a closer look at the structure, okay? And this is one emphasis before I go any further, that we are doing a structural analysis of a competency so that we can apply the principle of congruency as we develop our examination or our test, okay? So let's begin, for example, with a set of competencies for the first quarter, the most essential learning competencies for oral com in context. Okay, as seen in the slide, The first one is explains the functions, nature, and processes or process of communication. Then the other one differentiates the various models of communication. Now, please take a look at that. I underlined the behavior, the ones that are stated in the form of a verb. Explains, differentiates, uses, examines, identifies, distinguishes. Okay, so what is something that is worthy of noting here is the fact that this behavior reminds us what kind of test we are going to construct, and of course, when we speak about multiple choice type of tests, how do we develop our STEM? So we all focus on the behavior. So that means to say not every type of question that you'll be asking for multiple choice can fully or can truly fit the given competency. So that's the reason why there is a need to carefully analyze the structure of our competency. Okay, these are the so-called linguistic features of the competency. Okay, I hope you are able to view the slide because I could not see it from here. I'm only taking a look at my presentation in the desktop, so I hope everybody has that. Okay, so let's start with the first competency again. Explains the functions, nature, and process of communication. Now, if we apply the principle of congruence, okay, in assessment, then we are reminded this time that when we write our multiple choice type of test, a simple reminder is that it has to be congruent with our competency. Okay, so if, for example, if the behavior stated in the competency is explains, therefore, okay, our multiple choice must be centered on that behavior. So we will not be asking our student to identify or what else, describe, but we only ask them to explain. So the point now is, how is that done, or how is that going to be done in a multiple choice type of test? Okay, for example, when we ask our students multiple choice questions, we are actually putting them into our brain. And then in the competency, students are the ones who will explain the functions, nature, and process of communication. But it just so happens that our multiple choice is very limiting and constraining. So whenever we give them the choices, okay, from A to D, okay, that does not really actually let them explain. So this is again a reminder to our test developers, okay, to come up with an alternative to this, because this one could hardly be captured. That's the reason why, okay, the unpacking of competency is not only done during the time that we begin teaching, but even as well as the time when we begin to develop our examination or our tests, particularly the standardized one, the 50 item multiple choice type of test. So I hope we are able to underscore the limitation of our tests vis-a-vis the competency. Okay. The second one is differentiates the various models of communication. So our behavior is differentiates. And of course, let me remind you that the ones that are underlined in orange are actually our objects. Okay. In the linguistic parlance, okay, the ones underlined in orange are actually our objects of the verb. Explains, differentiates, uses, and so on. So when we develop our own test or our examination for this, then we might as well have to consider, okay, what are actually the objects of our behavior. In the instance, in the third example, uses various strategies in order to avoid communication breakdown. So the underlined verb is uses, and then you might be asking what uses what. So the answer is various strategies in order to avoid communication breakdown. So this time, this is again a challenge. How do we let our student use various strategies in order to avoid communication breakdown if it is already in a multiple choice type of test? So this is just uh, to remind you that these competencies, of course, remind us once again that not everything could be fully captured by a multiple choice of test, but we are given the leeway to come out with something that can take the place of that, okay, or supplement that, or alternative for our for these limitations. So I hope that's understood. Okay, so this time we proceed to the different characteristics of good tests. I made mention already of congruency, but these ones are more important ones, and I would like us to take a look at them one by one. We'll begin with validity. As said here, it's the extent to which the test measures what it intends to measure. So how do we ensure that there is validity in our test? First and foremost, if we remain faithful with our competency, then that's valid. That's very simple. If we take a look again at the competency, understand the behavior, understand the skill, and then do not go beyond that or do not even run short of that, then that's the time that we consider our test to be valid. Otherwise, if we measure or we come up with a multiple choice type of test and then it would be inappropriate and inconsistent with our competency, then it is as if we are measuring the temperature of a certain area using a ruler. So I hope that simple analogy is understood. Okay, so again, let me reiterate. If we do not embrace or say, for example, remain faithful with the competency and then come up with the test that is not aligned with that, it is as if we are measuring the temperature of a certain place using a ruler, not a thermometer. Okay, so there's a question of validity in the test. Then the second characteristic is reliability, and it's the consistency with which a test measures what it is supposed to measure. But I would like us to stress on consistency. I think our test would be more reliable if the results that it would yield are actually consistent. Say, for example, if the test is going to be administered to one school, then the result would be the same with the results or almost the same with the results of the test when it is administered to other schools, then that's the time that we can say there's reliability of our test. Then the third one is usability. The test can be administered with ease, clarity, and uniformity. But I think today we are going to be challenged with how we see to it, how we do administration of the test in the context of modular instruction. Okay, so I think that remains to be seen because as of the moment, okay, we haven't received any directive in line with that about the administration of the test because our teachers nowadays are busy with attending to modular development or module development or writing. Okay, so that remains to be seen. Next, scoreability. So that's of course self-explanatory. It's easy to score. Then interpretability, test results can be properly interpreted and is a major basis in making sound educational decisions. Now, in terms of this, or in line with this, our next presenter, Ma'am Sheila Alimanya, will be talking about item analysis. So this is where we see the interpretability of the test. We could not make judgment of the test, okay, unless this is going to be interpreted in a very statistical manner. So as of the moment, okay, if a test is not yet checked, if the test is not yet item analyzed, then we could not be able to interpret the results and thereby make sound decisions from it. Okay, and next one is economical. The test can be reused without compromising the validity and reliability of the test. So I think that's very self-explanatory. So this time we proceed to the next slide. This is a reminder about what we normally do. I think all of us are already engaged or have already been engaged in this activity, but then let us just try to recall and of course emphasize what we are doing. We'll begin with prior learning, the one that's of course highlighted in the blue-gray color. Then learning as a process, then learning as outcome. Now, if all of us are doing the following, prior learning, learning as process, learning as outcome, then only then that we can say that the assessment is holistic. Okay, so let's start with prior learning, okay, pre-assessment or diagnostic. So the question here still remains to be seen. how do we do prior learning in the context of modular instruction. So I think in module development, okay, we have already incorporated ideas like this, like how do we pre-assess our students so that we can be able to detect their learning disability, learning gap, or weaknesses, or even their strengths. So that's the reason why in module development, I think we have incorporated a pre-assessment, okay, so that we can be able to diagnose learning problems. Okay. Now, the second one is learning as a process. This is where we are already doing instruction, and today we'll be doing that in the form of modular instruction. So, in learning as a process, what the assessment that is incorporated here is formative assessment, and we know that already. And Ma'am Michelle or Doc Michelle Palmera earlier made mention of this, and I'm not going to discuss this any further. And then I would like us to proceed to learning as outcome. The most important concept here is summative assessment, and that is what we are going to do, okay, in uh, the preparation of our examination, okay, the multiple choice type of tests. So again, let me reiterate that only when prior learning or pre-assessment, formative assessment, and summative assessment are incorporated in our instruction, can we say that there is holistic assessment. In the absence of any of the three, then we could not totally claim that our assessment is holistic. That's the reason why, other than modular development or modular writing, okay, you writers and evaluators are also tasked to come up with a test that would be appropriate for the instruction. Okay, so we proceed now to the next. Let's begin unpacking our competencies. Okay, for senior high school, reading and writing skills. Okay, since reading and writing is for the second semester, nakalagay dyan Q3 or S2 Q3, indicating that this is for the second semester and the third quarter of our school year. The first skill is compare and contrast patterns of written text across disciplines. So the behavior are as follows: compare and contrast. So let me again remind you of congruency, that when we come up with a multiple choice type of test, I hope we are always faithful with the behavior. It always says compare and contrast. So we do not go beyond comparing and contrasting. So how do we frame a question for this? So since comparing is stating the similarity and contrasting is stating the differences, then our questions must be aligned with that. So when we begin to formulate a question for a multiple choice type of test, then we say, what is the similarity between, and so on, or what is the differences, or what are the differences among or between the patterns of written text across disciplines. So something like that. Okay, just an example. Okay, for the next, 21st century literature from the Philippines and the world. Okay, this is for the first sem, for first quarter, writing a close analysis and critical interpretation of literary text and doing an adaptation of this, and so on. So from the word writing, there's actually that's not the behavior, but the competency is asking the student to write. So therefore, if it is writing and a close analysis, the question now is, how do we write a multiple choice type of test with that regard? Okay, because as I told you earlier, when we use a multiple choice type of test, please take note that one of the limitations of the test is that it's putting our students inside a frame. Okay, and then the answers are already provided, and the student will just make a choice from among the options that you've given. And then you are not able to capture the competency, because the competency says they have to write. And then choosing from the answers or the options that you give is not really congruent with the competency. So I hope we are reminded of that. Okay, so in line with that, then let us try to look into alternatives so that we remain faithful with our competency. Okay. Next. Okay, this is for grade 7. Okay, for junior high school. Okay, quarter 1, supply other words or expressions that complete an analogy. So I think this is very feasible in a multiple choice type of test because we just ask the students to choose from the words that can complete an analogy. Okay, very easy. Identify the genre of a material viewed, such as movie clip, trailer, news, flash, internet-based program, documentary, video, and others. So if you are to remember what Ma'am Palmera mentioned in the previous presentation, okay, one of the things that you have to do in the preparation of the test is to also identify what level of learning, of cognitive learning, the given behavior is. For example, identify, okay, so this falls under, I guess, recognizing or remembering, okay, the lower order thinking skills. So this is possible to be included in a multiple choice type of test. Now for the third one, use the passive and active voice meaningfully in varied contexts. So this one is most appropriate or more appropriate with performance-based tasks. Okay, since using and applying could not be possible in a multiple choice type of test because, as I told you earlier, that you're just giving them options. The answers are already there, but they're not using the passive and active voice. Okay, because the best test for this is to actually let them use it. Let them write sentences, okay, based on context using either the passive and the active voice. So this one, okay, reminds you that a multiple choice type of test is not really appropriate for this. So this again is a reminder for everybody that we can come up with a supplementary or an alternative way of addressing or perhaps responding to this competency. Okay. Next, use the past and perfect tenses correctly in varied contexts. Now, in the multiple choice type of test, you just let the students read a sample sentence or a given sentence and then ask them to choose which of the different tenses, okay, is suitable for the context, okay, the time context of the sentence. Because when we speak about the tense, it's the property of a verb, the property of the verb that actually tells us about time. So the least that we could do for this particular competency in a multiple choice type of test is to let them identify what particular verb tense is appropriate for the given sentence. Because the competencies from the first one up to the fourth, use, and use, okay, remind you that, okay, the multiple choice of tests is inappropriate for this competency. So again, reminding you that you need to make use of an alternative for this. Okay. Next, for grade 8, first quarter, determine the meaning of words and expressions that reflect the local culture by noting context clues. Now, what is something notable about this competency is that it does not only tell you of the behavior and, of course, the object of that behavior, but it also reminds you how the students will have to do this. Okay? So let me stress that when we speak about being so faithful with our competency, we do not only take a look at the behavior that's determined and the object, the meaning of words and expressions, but also take note that there is a certain condition being mentioned in the competency, and that is noting context clues. How do students do that? They have to note context clues. So if in the test you ask the student to only determine the meaning of words and expressions that reflect the local culture, but then the condition is not really properly addressed, then we could also say that you have not remained faithful with the competency. Okay? So for us to be really checking on the alignment of the competency and our assessment methodology, we have to see to it that we fully understand, okay, the structure of our competency. Okay, next, use conventions in citing sources. So you are, of course, bombarded with the word use here, and you are reminded this time that you need to look for alternatives for this, because as I made mention in the previous discussions, that it would be least feasible for us to come up with a multiple choice of tests, okay, taking a look at the behavior use. And then note implicit signals used by the writer to indicate coherence. Okay, this is just feasible in the test. Okay, we proceed now to grade 9. For quarter 1, express permission, obligation, and prohibition using models. So if we are to really stick to this competency, a multiple choice type of test being able, or the multiple choice type of test is only giving us the choices, or giving the students the choices. So if they, for example, would answer the question, then you are not asking them to express permission, obligation, and prohibition using models. Okay. So again, this is a reminder for you to take alternative for this. Use conditionals in expressing arguments. Then the next one is determine the vocabulary of jargons expected of a communicative style. Okay. Employ or use the appropriate communicative styles of various situations. So part of our analysis of the competencies for grade 9 is also examining how we can come up with questions that would still remain faithful with the competencies. Okay. Grade 10 for first quarter, use information from news reports, speeches, informative talks, panel discussions, and others in everyday life. Determine the effect of textual aids like advanced organizers, titles, nonlinear illustrations, and others on the understanding of the text. So I think this is just possible for coming up with questions in the multiple choice of test. Okay. For the next one, appraise the unity of plot, setting, and characterization in the material viewed to achieve the writer's purpose. So if we are to really stick to the competency, then initially we have to let the student become exposed with the material, view the material, and then our multiple choice exam or test would ask them to pass judgment on the unity of plot, setting, and so on, because the term is appraised. So they have to weigh. So they have to come up with their judgment. And if we are to really authentically measure that, then we do not provide them the answers, because a multiple choice type of test is already providing one. The students will just have to find or to choose from among the 4. Okay, so it means to say that it's not really authentic, because the authenticity of the assessment can only be done if, or can only be possible if we remain, again, faithful to our competency. Appraising of the unity of the plot, setting, and so on could hardly be done unless the students can do it. I mean, could hardly be measured unless the students would really take a look at the material, view the material, and then at the end of that, make their own judgment about the material that they viewed. And then that is actually open. So whatever their judgment or appraising would or the appraisal that would come up, that is of course based on their own idea about the material viewed. The point here is that when we set a multiple choice type of test, giving them the choices, okay, the choices or the answers there are not really coming from them. So it reminds us again that the test is not authentic. Okay, and authenticity only happens when the students themselves are the ones to appraise the unity of plot and so on. Then next one, compare and contrast the contents of the materials viewed with outside sources of information in terms of accessibility and effectiveness. So I think that's just possible. Then employ, this one also would not be properly measured by a multiple choice type of test. So reminding you once again to look for alternative for this. Okay, we proceed now to this one. This is the crux of the matter. The preparation of the table of specifications for first charter examination in English 7 and so on. Okay, so this time, may I request Sir Mel, please? Sir Mel? Hello, Sir Mel? Sir Mel, please?
Okay, okay, sir. Wait lang. Open ko pa.
Sorry, sir.
Okay.
Sir Mel is preparing our Excel presentation. Okay, let me remind everybody that this shall be the one that we'll be adapting for the preparation of our test. So ideally, this has to be prepared beforehand. Before we construct our tests, okay, we are guided by the blueprint. The TOS actually is the blueprint of our examination. Okay, so before we proceed to the operation of the Excel file, I would like us to
Ano,
take a
sir?
look at the table. Hello, sir.
Ano, sir?
Yes, sir.
Makita na, sir.
Sir, mabyuni lang ang TOS, sir.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Amar,
We can see it.
view ba
It's
ang
okay.
Na naman, sir.
Oh,
Na
nakita daw, sir.
Okay, so let's proceed. Okay. So this shall be the table of specifications that we have to prepare. And as I mentioned earlier, this is the blueprint of our examination. So this has to be prepared beforehand. Okay. So what I'd like us to stress are the following. Okay. In the first column, you see the statement of our competencies. So we just have to copy paste it from our from our registry of different competencies, particularly the most essential ones. Okay, so put them down here. And then the second column is the number of items. And then the next 6 columns are the different dimensions of learning, the levels of learning, and take note of the coloring. I deliberately made it monochromatic, and the degree of the lightness or darkness is of course differentiated for emphasizing that as you proceed to the right, okay, it's getting higher. Okay, so remembering and understanding for the first 2 levels, then the middle levels applying and analyzing, and the last ones evaluating and creating. Now we no longer use the ones that were developed by Bloom. If you remember the taxonomy of Bloom of the different levels of learning in the cognitive domain, this has been modified by Krathwohl. And what we have been using all throughout from the very beginning, are actually the terms remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Now, the next column, the last column is items placement. Now, how do we operate this? Okay, please take note that we do not do anything with number of items. Do not touch that. Okay, just have to manipulate figures under remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating in coming up with a table of specification. So, pwede siya i-erase sa tanan. We can erase all the entries and make it go back to zero. Zero tanan na diha. Then after that, okay, for example, when you write down the first competency and decide that you are going to allocate a 1 item or 2 items for remembering, then put in 2. And then if you decide to come up with a 2-item test for understanding for this competency, so just type 2, and then automatically the number of items will also adjust. Okay, and then please take note at the very bottom. Okay, ideally in our standardized multiple choice type of test, the least number of items is 50. So in my example, I put in 50. Now, the numbers that you see at the bottom remind you of your judgment, remind you of your balancing. Okay, so if for example you would like to come up with a test that is quite difficult or really difficult, then the third one, the third figure under evaluating and creating must be of course higher than the two other ones. Then if you decide to put a striking balance, okay, between the or among the three different groupings, then you can just make an adjustment about that by going the entities that you would put in under remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating, and so on. That is how easy our table specifications preparation is. Then on the other side, the last part, okay, it's not going to be adjusted by every information that you would put in, but you have to really key in the number or the order for the placement of your items, okay, on the last part. Okay, so I think the TOS is already understood, and if there are some questions with regard to the presentation, okay, we'll just take time to discuss that, okay, after the presentation or after this discussion. Okay, so I think that will be all, Sir Mel, and test developers and module writers. Once again, good morning and thank you for listening.
Okay. Thank you, Sir Ern. Okay.
Welcome, sir.
So, if you have questions, please type your questions sa ating chat box. Okay. I do not want to discount Sir Ernest's few lines, but in our new modalities in teaching, yung sinabi ni Sir na hindi pwedeng gawin, pwede na rin magagawa ngayon for junior high school and senior high school type of assessment. If you have noticed sa ating mga previous webinar, sa Microsoft Forms at saka Google Forms, pwede tayong mag-attach ng video. So, pwede na tayong magkaroon ng viewing appreciation. Pwede na rin yung listening comprehension by downloading or saving our voice as MP3. We can place that sa ating Microsoft Forms at saka Google Forms. Yun namang viewing appreciation, pwede na rin linking YouTube to our Google Forms and Microsoft Forms. So pwede na rin yun siya. Kaya lang, itong example na Sir Ernie na assessment, we can still do that sa online using ZipGrade. If you can still remember ZipGrade, di ba gina-check nato siya sa cellphone? Karon dili na sa cellphone lang i-check, pwede na rin siyang gawing online. Mag-test na sila sa online, nandoon na yung answer sheet sa online. All the students to do is to click the circle that corresponds to their answer. So I'm going to explain that later. Okay? Okay.
Okay,
Ready
sir.
na ata si ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
But the presentation that
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
prepared,
Yes,
the
sir.
presentation that I did earlier, okay, just a reminder that the context here is that we will be doing modular instruction, and that the test that we'll be doing is a paper pencil test, the usual, the traditional multiple choice type of test that we administer to students quarterly.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Pwede na rin siya yung paper and pencil test sa
Okay,
online
sir.
using ZipGrade. I will tell you later on. Okay,
Okay.
sir. Okay.
Okay,
I
thank you,
think
sir.
ready na si Ma'am Cifra. So, thank you, Sir Ern. Our lives as
Welcome, sir.
teachers for this year are too colorful due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Our strategies become different. Our ways of delivering the usual modality is no longer the same. But one thing makes us stronger. The words, we are teachers. To inspire us that these words must be turned into action, please help me welcome our Chief in Curriculum Implementation Division, Doctor of Education, Ma'am Alma Cifra. Ma'am Al?
Hello, Sir Mel.
Yes,
Hello.
ma'am. Yes, Ma'am May.
I think she's still doing something
Okay.
at this.
Ay,
Okay, Ma'am
oy,
Alma is
okay.
here na. Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Nakamute ang
Okay, okay.
microphone ko, Anne.
Okay po. Sige, ma'am.
So,
Welcome po.
thank you, Mel, for that wonderful introduction. My greetings to all writers, evaluators, and illustrators of the English
section of our division. Good morning to all of you. My salute to Dr. Mayan Humuad for the initiation of this webinar. This DepEd Davao City webinar for English Summative Test Construction based on MELCs seminar will fill our cup so that we will all be ready to apply our learnings from this activity to the field that we will be serving. This is an avenue for us to work as one and share what we will gather from this session. Let our hearts then be open and let's have a trust to each one. To address the needs of the schools for learning resources is the main target of this training. We know how important learning resources to our learners. These are the products of the efforts that you will all be exerting. The resources should emulate creativity and resourcefulness of the writers, the evaluators, and the illustrators as well. Learning resource development is full of challenges, but if we are filled with fresh ideas and inspiration to face the day's work, we will all be driving towards success. Let us all take note that one of our mandates is to provide private schools and learning centers with diverse, quality, accessible, cost-effective, and appropriate learning resources to have effective and efficient learning outcomes. Once again, good morning, and may we'll have a productive seminar, a one-day seminar. To God be all the glory. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am Alma. Thank you, Ma'am Al. Okay, designing tests is an important part of assessing students' understanding of course content and their level of competency in applying what they are learning. Whether you use a paper and pencil quiz or test, graded recitation, a performance task, or a summative test, a final, careful design will help provide us more calibrated results. Please help me welcome to discuss on competency-based test construction and test item analysis of Doña Carmen Deñas National High School Teacher 3, Ma'am Shela C. Alimania. Ma'am She.
Good morning. It's been a pleasure to present to you the assigned topic or the topic assigned for me this morning, and also the one that was presented yesterday during the elementary level test development session. My cordial greetings to our curriculum implementation division chief, Dr. Alma Cifra, and also to our education program supervisor in English, Ma'am Mayan Jumuad. Same warm greetings are also extended to our writers who have been having a great and challenging time in developing our modules, and also our evaluators who are exercising the precise judgment according to the guidelines presented in evaluating modules. Okay? My discussion this morning is something that is perspective and introspective in nature. Okay, so why perspective? Because this is what we're going to look forward to as we develop our tests. And it is something that is introspective in nature, because after the test is administered, then we have to find out if our tests are reliable, or it met the standards set by the ones presented by Sir Ernst Baclaan Jr. a while ago, the thing that we call interpretability. Okay, so to begin my discussion this morning, the topic is entitled Analyzing and Using Assessment Results. Okay, instead of having it as competency-based test construction and a test analysis, I had the subtitle of analyzing and using assessment results because the bulk of my discussion will be about test analysis. Okay, Sir Mel, please do the honor in presenting the slides. Let's begin the first slide. Okay. Now, my presentation is broken down into three parts. We have number one, ways to analyze assessment information, the test analysis, and the process. So later, I will be presenting to you the test analysis and the process, although this has been presented in the various seminars that we already have for test development. And then a review of the test assessment cycle, and also the effective use of assessment results. And so, our objectives this morning are the following. Number one is to identify the ways to analyze assessment results and to review the assessment cycle and to plan for the effective use of the assessment results. All right, next slide, please, Sir Man. Now, here's a question. How do we make sure that our test construction is competency-based? How? All right, so we can make sure or we can ensure that our test construction is competency-based if our items are anchored on the most essential learning competencies provided for each grading period. Okay, and it should also be, or it should also follow the table of specifications that we will be developing as we go or as we draft our test. Okay, now it's very important that in developing such a test, we should always bear in mind the thing called assessment plan value. Okay, so an assessment plan's value to the department lies in the evidence it offers about overall department or program strengths and weaknesses, and in the evidence it provides for change. So the thing that we'll be doing is not just something that will just go to the test bank and will not utilize it. That means that we will be using the results, the interpretation of the results for change. Okay? The key factors in achieving real value from all of our work is to make the most out of the information that we have collected by using effective analysis and interpretation practices. Okay, so what is this effective analysis? The effective analysis is anchored on item analysis because we'll be developing tests. Okay, now the essence of item analysis are the following. Okay, number one, it can help us evaluate how well our objective items are actually working, and it also refers to a statistical technique that helps instructors identify the effectiveness of their test items. So here comes the word statistics, no? Something that is difficult, something that is a little bit difficult for non-math majors. Okay, but don't worry, the internet is plenty or is generous enough of the plethora of item analysis tools that will help us in analyzing our test. Okay, so what are the things under item analysis statistics? We have item discrimination index, and we also have item difficulty index, and we have the distractor analysis. Now, for the distractor analysis, I will not be presenting this one anymore because this is something that is highly scientific and mathematical in nature. What we'll go after are the item discrimination and the item difficulty indices. Okay, so we'll begin with item difficulty index. Okay, for item difficulty index, it is used for items with one correct alternative worth a single point. That means since we are using the multiple choice type of test, so we can utilize this item difficulty index. Okay. Now, for item difficulty index, we have the percentage of students who answer an item correctly. Okay. Later, I will be presenting a sample of a formula for item difficulty index. It ranges from 0 to 100. The higher the value, the easier the question. So what if the question is easy? Are we going to retain it? Are we going to improve it? Or are we going to reject it? So those questions will be answered also later. And then item difficulty index is relevant for determining whether students have learned the concept being tested, and it discriminates students who know the tested material and those who do not know. Okay? So item with low discrimination or difficulty index, that means that the item is so difficult, and it means that almost everyone gets it wrong or so easy. Okay? And if everyone also almost gets it right. Okay, next. Next slide, please, Sir Bell. Okay. So for item difficulty index, I'll be presenting to you first the range. Okay. Later, I'll be presenting the formula. Okay. For item difficulty index, if it is 0.75 or above, that means that the item is easy. Okay. If it is 0.25 to 0.75, that means that the item is moderate. And if it is below 0.25, that means that the item is hard. Now, how are we going to compute it? If we are going to compute it manually, okay, before we proceed to item discrimination index, okay, so for item difficulty index, can you see my very cute illustration? Makita, Sir Mel?
Hala. Ay,
Ay,
nag-present ka,
sorry,
ma'am.
sorry.
Nag-present.
Makita man
Okay.
siguro na. Okay, I think you can see the one that I am
Sige,
presenting.
ma'am.
Okay, this is done manually. Kung i-manual nato, pero dili nato na siya i-manual because we have softwares in the internet that will help us in solving this difficulty index. Okay, so we have the formula P, then we have the NH plus NL over N. So what is this? Okay. So this NH, this represents the number of students in the high group. What is this high group? Okay. Later we will know what this high group is. And then we have the NL. Okay. That this means that these are the number of students in the lower group. Okay. Again, for NH, this will be for the number of students in the higher group who have answered the test correctly. And for NL, this is for the number of students in the lower group who have answered the test also correctly. Okay? And then we have the N, which is the total number of students. Okay? All right? So let's proceed now to item discrimination index. So dili lang ta mabalaka because it will be our Excel software who will help us in calculating these things. What we will just have to do is just to enter the values or the figures. Okay? Let's proceed to item discrimination index. For item discrimination index, it refers to the ability of an item to differentiate. Previous slide, first Mel. It refers to the ability of an item to differentiate among students on the basis of how well they know the material tested. Okay, so here comes the demarcation line between the superiors and the inferiors. Sa ato pa, itong mga medyo nakabalo sa exam o medyo kailangan pa dyan i-master itong mga competencies na covered for that certain grading period. Okay. All right. Then, items with low discrimination indices are often ambiguously worded and should be examined. Okay? And then, an item with negative indices should be examined to determine why a negative value was obtained, or the item was miskeyed, meaning the students who knew the material tended to choose an unkeyed but correct response option. here in this part, we have to check our key answers if it jives with really with the appropriate answer for that item. Okay? All right? Next. Okay. For item discrimination index, the ranges are as follows.
Hello, Ma'am She. Hello, Ojo. Ma'am Sheila.
Nawala
Wala
si
od.
Ma'am Sheila.
Hello, Ma'am
Static
Sheila.
signal. Static signal. Marag naputol yan signal actually. Nag-freeze yung natin. Having sure. Ayan, yan. Nadungog na ka, Ma'am Shi.
Okay. Since kaganiha pagsugod, Zod.
Dili, ma'am, na karon lang nawala, ma'am, sa item discrimination index.
Okay, okay.
I think it's better nga walay video, Ma'am Shi, para makakontinue ka kasi ang audio ang makatagaan ng signal.
Okay, sige.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, kana.
That's better. Okay na, Ma'am Shi.
Okay. All right. So for item discrimination index, we have a 0.40 and above. Again, the range. Okay. So that means that the item is a very good item. Okay. Then we have the next one. We have a 0.30 to 0.39. That means that the item is reasonably good but subject to improvement. Okay? So ikaw na depende na sa imo, are you going to lista na lang imo ang item or just have to improve the item? And then we have the next one, we have 0.20 to 0.29. Okay? That means these are considered as marginal items. Okay? These are the items that need improvement. And we have below 0.19, that means that these are considered as poor items. Okay? These items must be rejected or these items must be revised. Okay? I am still loud and clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Loud and
So
clear, loud and clear.
now to this one. Okay? Pakita lang na ko ni siyang okay? This is the manual formula for difficulty index. Makita ba?
Ma'am, wala kay video, ma'am.
Nawala ang
Okay.
presentation.
Okay. Okay, wait lang.
Turn on your video sharing. Okay, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So we have the difficulty index formula. Okay. Difficulty index, discrimination index na ta. Okay. So we have DI, that will be for the discrimination index. We have the formula of the number of students in the higher group who have answered it correctly or rightly, minus the number of students in the lower group or in the lowest group who have answered it incorrectly, over the number of students in the high group or the number of students in the low group. Okay. So, sige kog balik-balik aning high group o low group. Unsaon jud kaya nato ni siya pag compute. Okay. We will know it in the process that I will be providing. Okay, next slide please, Sir Mel. Wait lang. Where is it?
Okay na, ma'am She.
Okay. Wala pa rin.
Done.
Dahil lang, sir.
Okay na, visible.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
So we
Thank
have
you.
here the process. Okay. So for the process of determining who are those students in the high group and who are those students in the low group, we have the first process is we have to arrange the test scores from highest to lowest. Okay. So given if you have 50 students, then you have to arrange it from 50 niya hangtod sa 15 or unsa ang last na score, lowest score. And then, out of that 50 students, we have to select the criterion group, which is composed of two. Okay, two groups. We have the high group, that is the top 27%, and we also have the lowest group, which is the lowest 27%. That is if your students, okay, if your students are just 50 or are 50, but if you only have 30 and below, okay, if you only have 30 and below, what you just have to do is you do the 50-50 breakdown. That means 50% of students in the high group and another 50% of students in the low group. Okay, next. The third process is for each item, you have to count the number of examinees in the upper group who have correct responses. Okay? So number of examinees in the upper group who have correct responses for a certain item. Okay? And then similar procedure will be followed for the lower group. Okay, next. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, now for this time, after encoding those items, we have to have the solve for the difficulty index for each item. So for the difficulty index, the one that I presented a while ago, okay, need not to worry about it because you'll not be doing it manually. Okay? The computation, imagine you have 50 students and for each item there are 4 choices. So we will not be doing it anymore. Let the Excel, okay, do about it, or other item analysis tools. Okay, and then we have to solve for the discrimination index. Okay, this formula is actually one of the most common formulae. Okay, that is used in item discrimination index. Okay, so the item analysis process, as you can see, is just a 5-step easy process. All right, so let's proceed. So what are we going to do with the results, okay, that we have for item analysis, for the item analysis, okay? Number 1 is we have to, or these answers or the results of the item analysis will help us answer these possible or recommended questions. Like number 1, what does the data say or the data say about students' mastery of subject matter, research skills, or writing? Second one, what does it say about meeting benchmark expectations? Okay, what does it say about the most essential learning competency provided for that grading period? And then what does the data or the data say about your students' preparation for taking the next step in their careers? Okay, and then are our graduates of our program, are they getting good jobs because of those learning competencies? Are accepted into reputable graduate schools or schools, collegiate level or what? Okay. Are there areas where our students are outstanding? And what are the weaknesses that we see, okay, in any particular skill, such as research or critical thinking skills? Okay. Next. Right? So this is just a review of what Sir Baclaan presented a while ago, that we will begin with the learning outcomes or the most essential learning competency for that grading period. And we have to check it also to our curriculum. Of course, we have the MELC guide, and also as you notice that our most most essential learning competencies have corresponding codes in our curriculum guides. Okay, the assessment method, the summative test that we will be using, and then we have the analysis of results. And what are we going to do with these results? For the analysis of results, we have item analysis tools. Okay, as I searched the web yesterday and today, DepEd Tambayan has provided some of those item analysis calculator, and I think some of us are already using it for a number of years. And then we go back always to the learning outcomes, and the cycle goes on and on. Okay, next. Right? So how do we know that our assessment results are used effectively? Okay. Assessment reports that end up briefly produced and then filed without any resulting action are a waste of time. So we really have to do something with the least learned competencies that we will be harvesting, that we will have, okay, later on based on the test results. Okay. And these assessment results should never dictate our decisions, okay? But we should also use our professional judgment to interpret the results, okay? To help make appropriate decisions. Of course, testing is just one factor, okay? There are also other factors now that will influence our students in taking the test. That is why our test results vary, okay? Right, and then next. Okay, so these assessment results will actively discourage inappropriate interpretations or use of assessment results. So how results have been used in the past has been shown to have a significant effect on people's willingness to participate in gathering and using assessment information. Okay, so these assessment results, will help us a lot in the test bank that we are having, diba? We already have some of us here already in the test development pool have been writers for a number of years, and we already have a good test bank. However, because of the MELC that we have, there are some some items in the test that we have to revise, that we have to get over with, and also some items that we have to retain. Okay, now when we use these assessment results effectively, it will prevent problems with closing the loop by carefully planning your assessment. So that is anchored on the assessment cycle that I had presented a while ago. Okay, next. Right? Now, while positive assessment results should be celebrated, even more recognition and reward should go to exemplary assessment efforts. Okay? And then promote the use of multiple sources of information when making any major decision. Okay? So we have to consider many things, as what I have mentioned a while ago. And then we have to communicate assessment information widely and transparently. Okay? So we really have to make use of our least learned competencies. And then the next one. Okay, so these are the table of authorities. My table of authorities in presenting to you my topic this morning. Okay, so as what Sir Mel said a while ago, if you have questions, okay, you can save your questions and we can answer them later after all the presenters are done with their topic. Okay, so let me end my presentation with a saying that feedback is the breakfast of the champion. So we should always treasure, okay, the results that we have the results that we have in our test or in conducting the test. Okay, so that's all. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Ma'am Shella. Okay, na-capture ba yung formula ni Ma'am Shella? You can capture or print screen by pressing the Windows symbol, then plus the PRTSCRN. That is how to print screen. Okay. So multiple choice questions can be difficult to write, especially if you want students to go beyond recall of information. but the exams are easier to grade than essay or short answer exams. On the other hand, multiple choice exams provide less opportunity than essay or short answer exams for you to determine how well the students can think about the course content or use the language of the discipline in responding to questions. To discuss the principles in writing multiple choice questions, please help me welcome Talinan Senior High School's Master Teacher 1, Ma'am Divelin M. Rodriguez.
Good
Ma'am
morning,
Debs.
everyone. Yes, sir. Can I be heard now?
Okay, yes, ma'am. Loud and clear.
Thank you, sir. So, greetings to our CID Chief, Dr. Alma Cifra, to our English Program Supervisor in the Division of Davao City, Dr. Mayan Humuad, our facilitators and evaluators, test developers. Good morning. So, my session this morning is we are going to talk about how are we going to make a multiple choice question for our in preparation for our summative test or quarterly exam. So earlier we have already heard assessment by Ma'am Michelle. How are we going to make our TOS by Sir Ernie? And then how are we going to do item analysis? Which questions should be uh, revised or retained or rejected by Ma'am Sheila? And this time, our question is, how are we going to make our MCQ? So, I am going to present to you my I'm sure everybody is excited na no to make MCQ. Sure. Sige, I have here, we will have a test. Sir Mel, is my slide clear?
No slide presented po.
No slide presented?
Wala pa, ma'am.
Oh.
Wala pa.
Wala pa, Ma'am Debs. Wala.
Share screen, ma'am. Tapos, application.
Present now, tapos window.
A window.
Wait, sir, ha?
I-click sa atong window po na mo i-share, ma'am, bago ko i-share.
I have opened it earlier naman. Okay. Okay na, sir.
Slide presented
Wala
na
pa,
po.
ma'am.
Ano, ma'am?
Wala pa, ma'am, siya. Ayan. Develin. Okay.
Okay. Is it clear, sir?
Yes,
it
ma'am.
clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Sige.
Okay na po, ma'am.
So, we will have an Okay, thank you, sir. So, we will have an activity. So, it's activity 1, testing the test. I am going to show you 2 MCQ test items, and you are going to give your observations based on the following questions. So, your questions will be, is the MCQ aligned to the learning competency? Are the choices reasonable? Do you understand what is it asking for, even if you don't know the answer? Does the MCQ develop higher order thinking skills? And what are your other observations? And then be ready to share your observations. So I will be calling teachers later, and you are going to share your feedback. Now, for the questions that I will be showing you, this is only for the sake of presentation. So I made some errors in the question so that we will be able to discuss things this morning. Okay, so this is the first question. These are not your questions. I just made errors on this for today's presentation. Okay, Can we have somebody? Manawag ko, I will be calling you. Kisa na ako kaila diri ha. Sir Bonnie. Na, Sir Bonnie? Sige. Wala si Sir Bonnie. So, what do you think of this MCQ? Ma'am Aristine Dayot? Ma'am Tin?
Ma'am, di good maklaro, ma'am. Gamay
Ma'am
kayo.
Debs, gamay kayo ang
Sige.
screen.
Gamay kayo, ma'am.
Wait.
Di na ko mabasa, Ma'am Debs.
A full screen, ma'am.
Okay. That one.
Ma'am, paki-press ng F5.
Okay na, ma'am.
Paki-press ng
Okay na
F5
siya,
po.
ma'am. Okay na.
Full screen na siya.
Yan, better po.
Full screen na, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Okay na po. Nawala.
Thank you.
Next slide ko na siya, ma'am.
Sige. Okay na?
Okay na, ma'am.
Blink imuhang ano. Screen.
Ma'am Tin, what do you think about this? About this?
Di na lang siguro i-full screen, di na lang siguro ikuan, ma'am, i-slideshow. I-full screen lang.
Ayaw lang kayo mouse. Nag-move
Ayaw na
siya,
lang.
ma'am.
Sige.
Ayaw na lang i-slideshow, ma'am. Ikaning ikuan lang siya, ma'am, i-full screen diya sa tumoy good, ma'am, kanang plus plus.
Okay na, sir. How about this one?
Scroll na lang, ma'am, scroll para makita ang tayo.
This one.
Na-zoom part sa baba, lower tab, lower right.
Pakadaan pa.
Sige, ma'am. Kana, ma'am. Sige, plus plus pa, ma'am.
Apo.
Padak, ma'am, kay digit pakitaan.
Good po. Loya, okay.
Lagi, gamay kayo. Kana.
Kana, ma'am. Okay na.
Sige. How about that one?
Okay.
Okay na siya, ma'am.
Better, ma'am.
Thank you. Sige, anyone who can share their thoughts about this MCQ. Again, these are not your MCQs. I have made error on this for today's discussion. Anyone who would like to share? Ma'am Tin?
Ma'am Debs?
Yes.
Hello. Ako, Ma'am Debs.
Ma'am Tin, sige daw.
Okay. First is the STEM bitaw, Ma'am Debs. I mean, sa gani ang term ani. Ang choices ba is within the STEM. Kasi, excuse me. Okay, wait lang na ka. Nagkumpayot akong anak sa nagkaan. Sorry. Okay, and also the choices, we have the sentence A, sentence C. It will really create confusion din sa mga examiners. And then wala jud siya not state clearly bitaw ang question. Hello, Ma'am Debs? Hello?
Yes, ma'am, I am listening. Okay, so thank you very much, Ma'am Tin. So we have a problem here because the sentences have connectors, and it will look as if this is this is a paragraph which is about the lightities. So there is also an error on grammar, and it is also not congruent to the learning competency ingon ni Sir kaganina. Kay identify figures of speech that show emphasis, and then this is actually defining a lightities. Okay, thank you very much, Ma'am Tin. Next is this one. Use appropriate grammatical signals or expressions suitable to each pattern of idea development. So idea development here is cause and effect. So we have here sentences bearing signals, grammatical signals. Anyone who would like to share any findings from this? Can we have Sir Amir?
Ma'am, again, ang imuhang kuan, competency nga gihatag, use appropriate grammatical signals. Tapos, ang choice, ang question, which of the sentences above use or used dito ko kita correct grammatical signal. So, bukod dili siya aligned dito sa competency nga gihatag nimo. Another thing is na nako makita ng kuan slide.
Hello. Sorry.
Kato ma'am, kato lang siya nakitaan nga kuan so far.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sir Amir. So Sir Amir have noticed that this question is not congruent to the learning competency because the learning competency says use grammatical signals, but in this case here, there are statements and the grammatical signals are already there. And if you are going to look at item C, this is an inappropriate use of grammatical signals because if you are going to use since is used to show effect cause relationship and not effect cause relationship. So there is something wrong when we say since the boys were given 1 week suspensions, they had misbehaved, but instead they had misbehaved, so they were given 1 week suspension. So we have to be very careful even if we use since for cause effect. Let us try to see that since is used to show cause and not an effect. Okay, so that's it. So actually, these are just some errors that we find when making multiple choice questions. So that will lead us to how are we going to write multiple choice questions. Okay, so MCQ is one of the most important, well-established tool for assessment. So as mentioned by Sir Ernie kanina, so he mentioned about the advantages of multiple choice questions. And it can be an effective and efficient way to assess learning outcomes. Although it has advantages, it also has limitations. So number one is the advantage of an MCQ is versatility. So mentioned by Sir kanina, it can assess various levels of learning outcomes. It can assess basic recall or simple recall to evaluation, depending on how we formulate or use verbs in order to assess higher order thinking skills. Although it has limitations, so it is not an effective way to test students' ability to organize thoughts or articulate explanations or create ideas. So that is why it was emphasized earlier, do not force to use MCQ for LCs that cannot be measured using MCQ. So hindi na natin dapat pilitin yun. And next is validity. So validity is the degree to which the test measures the learning outcomes it tries to measure. So it can only be valid if our MCQ is congruent to our learning competency. So if it is not congruent to our learning competency, then there is no way, even if students will get average scores or they will get perfect or 85 or 75, if the MCQ is not aligned to the learning competencies, then there is no way that we can claim that the test result is valid. Number 3 is the reliability. So our MCQ can give a reliable result if the items are increased, provided that the test items also are congruent to the learning competency. So the bottom line here is the question should be aligned to the learning competency, because if not, it will lose its validity and reliability. So I have here the parts of the MCQ. The parts of the MCQ, so we have the STEM, and we have the distractors and the correct answer. So this is our STEM, of which the question is part of the STEM. In some other reference, it is separated from the STEM. They call it the lead question, and the distractors and the correct answer. So there is only one correct answer. So how do we construct an effective STEM? So the STEM should be meaningful by itself. So even if we don't know the answer, if we understand the question, then we know that our MCQ is on the right track, although we have to check if it's aligned with the learning competency. So even if we don't know the answer, if we can understand the question, then our STEM is effective or meaningful. So this is a sample test item that is not meaningful. So it has to be revised to become better. The item should not contain irrelevant material. So even if how long our stem is, actually the advice is it's better to have longer stems, and the choices should be very short but clear, but it should not contain irrelevant material, as just like with this example. So it talks about mitochondria. This is in science, and then there are a lot of irrelevant information here. And then the question is just about what characteristic is relatively constant in a mitochondrial genomes across species. So maraming mga irrelevant material that will be difficult for us to determine what is really being assessed. The item should be a question or a partial sentence. So in a multiple choice question, we can have a question or a partial sentence, although a question stem is preferred. Why? Because students has to focus answering on the question, and if it is a partial sentence, there is a cognitive overload because student has to think about, no, kung what is there is an increase in overload, an increased cognitive load, because students has to work with the partial sentence, just like this example. So this is an example of a partial sentence MCQ. Example: a flash fiction is a contemporary genre in literature that is. So if I am a student, I have to think about all the possible answers, like a flash fiction is a contemporary genre in literature that is published online or offline. Totoo ba ito? A flash fiction is composed of at least 1,000 words. Pwede ba? A flash fiction is a product of creative imagination. Pwede ba ito? So it takes a lot of time for students to work with this question because the sentence is partial. How do we construct effective alternatives? So now let's go to the choices or the distractors, or we also call alternatives. So all alternatives should be clear and plausible. So the function of incorrect alternatives is to serve as distractors. So therefore, distractors should be plausible. When we say plausible, they should be reasonable, believable, and credible. So alternatives that are implausibles don't serve as functional distractors and should not be used. Sometimes we fall short of choices, so we tend to write whatever comes into our mind. but that's a no-no. Actually, MCQ is the easiest to check, but the most difficult to make. And if you find it very easy, then we have to think or rethink. So this is an example of, let us try to see if the alternatives are plausible. So this one. So Pope Francis met with a group of children at the Vatican last March this year to talk about how to build and keep peace. In his serious talk with 7,000 school kids, he explained that many people do not want peace because they make money off war. He called the arms trade the industry of death. So according to, no, that's according to Pope Francis, why do people not want peace? So if we are going to look at the alternatives or the distractors, the correct answer here is they make money from weapons. So this is the correct answer. But if we are going to look at the alternatives or the choices, they make money from weapons. They are suffering from poverty. They are tired of promoting peace and development. They have already consumed their resources to attain peace. So there is a choice here that is not plausible, because the choices should be possible, but there is only one correct answer. So the choices should be the possible reasons for people not to want peace because they make money from it. That could be they don't want peace because they are suffering from poverty. So letter B here is an irrelevant distractor. So it is not plausible. So we have to change this. So we have to change this with an option or alternative that could be a reason why people would not want peace. Alternatives, next bullet is alternatives should be mutually exclusive. So when we say exclusive, alternatives should not be overlapping because this will trick our test takers. For example, this one. When Al-Shoni learned, this was taken from the story 6 and Al-Shoni. When Al-Shoni learned that what he was planning, she was overwhelmed with grief and terror. She told him with streaming tears and in voice broken with sobs that she knew as few others could the power of the winds upon the sea. What literary device is the underlined phrase? So the underlined phrase, the choices are A, figurative language, B, idiomatic expression, C, flashback, D, hyperbole. She told with streaming tears is a figurative language that is also a hyperbole. So that will also make confusion. And the choices also, some are literary devices, some are literary techniques. So if we are going to make it better, what figure of speech is the underlined phrase? So the choices are now plausible because the choices are now all the different types of figures of speech. So the answer is clear. The options are plausible. Next bullet. Alternatives should be free from clues about which response is correct. So therefore, it is important that alternatives are homogeneous in content, are parallel in form, are similar in length, and have grammar consistent with the stem. So for example, this one. This is from CSS these test questions. Miss Catalina has a trouble in her animation class because the computers cannot load the Flash program. What do you think is the problem? A, small hard drive capacity. B, use only a built-in video capacity. C, low RAM capacity. D, incompatible processor. So in this case here, the 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 alternatives should be homogeneous in content. So if we are going to look at this test item, uh, choices A, C, and D are problems, but B is not. So it has to be revised to make the options plausible and clear. So it should be, to revise this one, B should be stated in a problem form similar to A, C, and D. Another example is, when two main characters in the book went outside, they tossed around Anne. So this is actually a clue that the answer could be an apple. But the answer is baseball or football, or could be tomato. So revised, this is now the revised one. So it should be, they tossed around A and then N. Next is the alternatives, all of the above and none of the above should not be used. So as much as possible, we should not be using this, although in so many MCQ, we see a lot of this, but experts say we should not use this. Why? When we use all of the above, test takers who can identify more than one alternative as correct can select the correct answer even if they are unsure about the other alternatives. It is really very true, because in the cognitive process, when we see that there are two items that are possible answers, then we automatically answer all of the above. And we have been tricked because letter C is the correct answer. The other one is, when we use none of the above, is the test takers who can eliminate a single option can thereby eliminate a second in either case. So students can use partial knowledge to give the correct answer. So if we read a question, tapos, and then there are two answers that are not the correct one, so automatically, if we don't understand the other one, our answer is none of the above, even if the answer could possibly be letter C. Avoid the use of always, never, and constantly, because this will trick our test takers. The alternatives should be presented in a logical order. So whether if the choices or the options are letters, so they should be arranged in alphabetical order. Or if it's numbers, they should be arranged in numerical order, highest to lowest or lowest to highest. So let us always remember that our choices should be arranged alphabetically. So if the choices are the different figures of speech, then let us arrange our choices according to the letters of the alphabet. Next is to keep the specific content of items independent of one another. No, this is really a no-no. For example, when we say, this has reference to the question, to your answer in the previous question. For example, I have seen a lot of this in mga aral pan questions. For example, this is just an example. Who is the President of the United States of America? So there are choices there. And then in question number 2, when was the date of his presidency of your answer in number 2? Because if the answer of the of your answer in question number 1. So because if the answer of the student in question number 1 is wrong, then he will be bringing that name of person as reference when he answers question number 2. So it's a no-no. The question should stand or should be independent from one another. Write stems and destructors in third person rather than second person. So in the example, what might happen if you get caught drinking on campus? So the revised one is if a person. Because if we say you are talking to the test taker, and the test taker might have a different answer. Because if I were that, this is what I am going to do. So we should use the second. We should use the third person. Use italics and boldface appropriately. So we use italics when we name books, periodicals, or plays or poems and films. So we make an italics for that. And we use boldface if we are going to emphasize, especially when we are going to use the word not. So in the example, the novel Catcher in the Rye, what was the main character's name? So naka-italics, and then which of the following is not is in bold face. Be consistent when using which and what in the question stem. So we use what. Typically, it indicates that there is only one right answer for the question, and which usually refers to which of the following. So for example, what does UREC stand for? So obviously, there is only one question. So when we say which is a group fitness program offered by UREC, that means to say that the choices below are different group fitness programs of UREC, but only one of these programs is the correct answer. But the choices are the different group fitness program offered by UREC. But again, the correct answer is only one of these group fitness programs. Considerations for writing MCQ that tests higher order thinking skills. So even if it's a multiple choice question, kanina ang ganda ng explanations ni Sir Ernie about MCQ vis-a-vis the learning competencies. So how are we going to write an MCQ that tests higher order thinking skills? So we are going to design test questions that focus on higher levels of cognition as defined by Bloom's taxonomy, which is now in our department. We are using the one that has been adopted by Anderson. So a STEM, how do we do that? A STEM that presents a problem. So therefore, it should be situational because it requires application of course principles, analysis of a problem, and evaluation of alternatives. So it allows the test taker to use multilingual thinking. So that is how we use an MCQ that is of higher order thinking. So this is Bloom's taxonomy. It was already presented earlier. So this is an example of a higher order thinking skill test. This is in science. So the nurse is making a home visit to a 75-year-old male client who has had Parkinson's disease for the past 5 years. Which finding has the greatest implication for this patient's care? So this item tests higher order thinking skills because it requires the test takers to be able to apply multilingual or multilogical thinking and a high level of discrimination to choose the best answers. So for example, I got this from a test in politics. So President Duterte said he had a meeting with Chinese officials whom he did not identify. The president said he asked the officials to spare Scarborough Shoal from Beijing's aggressive island building. What power of the president did he use? So uh, in this type of in this MCQ, this will allow the students to recall the different kinds of presidential powers. So that's recall. And the student is also going to understand the definitions of these powers before he will be able to apply and analyze the situation. So this is a question that allows students to apply multi-logical thinking, he reuses remembering, comprehending, applying and analyzing. And very important is have the test reviewed by someone who can find mistakes, clues, grammar, and punctuation problems before you administer the exam to your students. That is why in our school, we are asked to have our TQs and TOS checked by our master teachers. And we really love to see our TQs and TOS with a lot of suggestions and comments, because it is by there that we learn. And let us always remember that if these people do not understand our question, then something is wrong with our question in terms of grammar, maybe in terms of choices, maybe. So it's very important that we ask somebody to look into our questions. And after administering the test, we can now do item analysis. And again, the result of our item analysis can only be good if our test questions themselves are aligned to our learning competency. Because if not, it's difficult to say that we have to revise or we have to reject when in the first place, these test items do not match or are not congruent with our learning competencies. So I think I will end there. So that ends my session. So let us always remember that when we make our division test, we have a format. So we have to use our format. I think we are still using the same format, naka 2 columns, use appropriate font size. Formatting should be neat and clean. Do not write strictly no erasures, because it violates the principle of reflection. What if in the middle I changed my mind because I was able to recall other information? So it's not advisable to write strictly no erasures. Do not add unnecessary remarks at the last part of the test paper, and prepare the TQ ahead of time to allow checking and revising. And if possible, use 4 pages only, front and back, to minimize resources in our to minimize the use of resources in our school. So, sir, I think that would be all. Thank you very much. And
Uh, okay, thank you, Ma'am Deb. Ma'am Deb's my question. One question.
Ako lagi yung paborito.
Ma'am, ask lang po ako if there is Bato, ma'am. Question. Ma'am, ask lang nag-iisang question dito, ma'am. Ma'am, ask lang po ako if there is a need to arrange the choices alphabetically po, as well as arrange it from short to long choices po, or should it be the same length po? Thanks by Makit Tour.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. As said earlier, sir, the choices should be arranged alphabetically or numerically if these are numbers, and it should be of the same length. It should be parallel. It should be parallel in terms of grammar, and it should be the same length. Thank you very much, Sir Mac.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Okay,
I
thank you,
think
ma'am, again.
ang mga junior high school and secondary and elementary, because they have been kaning writing summative test at the division level. Marag kami sa senior high school. Kita Sir Mel, Ma'am Ruth ang
Si Ruth Howd. Okay. So I think I will be the one to sum up all the theories, the type of assessment, and the correct one on how to make assessment. So you already decided how to you have decided to make a paper and pencil test. So if you have noticed last 3 years, I was insisting on the use of zip grade. Ang zip grade pwede gyapon magamit karon. Okay? So if kung naamoy account sa zip grade, you can follow this one and introduce this to your students. This time uh, they will not be holding the answer sheet, but the answer sheet is placed online and your test paper is placed also online. Okay? So ako na ang speaker karon. Okay. So tell me ha kung nawala ako because I'm going to present the entire screen of my laptop. Okay, nana ko Ma'am Ruth. Okay. Okay, yes na daw. So if you have Zipgrade account, you can go to your Zipgrade account sa internet, that is www.zipgrade.com. Okay. I hope nakasunod. Then, meron dito na tatlong linya. So, click that one. Then, go to quizzes. Hindi ko kayo nakikita sa screen kasi nag-open ako ng Windows. So, we have here quiz name, then question. So, we will type a new quiz or test. So, I'm going to click new quiz. And I'm going to title this one as First Quarter Exam in MIL or Media and Information Literacy. And I'm going to choose the standard 50 question form. Kung gusto nyo na 20 na quiz, okay lang din. Nasa sa inyo yun. Then, online open submission. So, click that one. Then, who will be taking the class, the MIL class? So, kung wala pa kayong class, let us say grade 7, pwede namang dagdagan dito yung class ninyo. So, for this time, I'm going to click MIL class. So, later on, tuturuan ko kayo kung paano magdagdag ng class. So, I'm going to save the quiz. Okay. So, papasok ako dito. So, requirement dito is, yun parang exam natin sa nakuha natin sa ating evaluator. Yung ibibigay na talaga sa estudyante. Yung exam na gagamitin sana natin sa paper and pencil test must be converted into PDF. So, i-open nyo sa Microsoft Word, then after that, save as na nasa type ng PDF. So, I have here name, first quarter exam. And I have here answer key. So, I'm going to edit this one. Okay. Then, I'm going to place the answer key. So, for number 1, let us say, dapat naka-caps lock siya or capitalized letter. Number 2, D. Dapat malagay yung lahat ng sagot. D. Number 5. Let us say D. A. Gawa ko na lang po ang answer kasi kailangan bilisan siya. 8 C. 9D. Say A. C. C, D. A. C. Answer key po ito. C. C. A. D. B. Sana matama ito. Kasi kahapon na mali ako, hindi ako makapasok dito yesterday sa elementary. B. C. Nandiyan pa ako. Hello, Ma'am Debs. Napa ko, Ma'am Debs?
Stop %, Sir Mel.
Oh, lagi. Oh, nawala ako, Ma'am. Okay.
No
Wait.
internet.
Oh dear.
Wait, Ma'am. Bakit ako? Okay. Ala, balik ako doon sa answer
Okay
key.
siya. Na-view na, sir.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Kailangan babalik ako doon sa answer key. Okay. Hindi ko na lang tapusin. I-save ko yung answer key. Baka matanggal na naman. Okay, I'm going to save this answer key. So, kailangan tapusin ninyo. Okay, then save this key. Again. Then go back to quiz. Okay. So, meron na tayong answer key. So, this time, we will insert our exam na into is edit answer key, download and convert. Okay, answer key, ayan na, then view edit remote testing option. Okay, for online submission, so click this one. Then you are going to upload your key questions, yung naka-convert na yung from Microsoft Word to PDF. So upload key answer question dito. Okay, checking this box. Then choose a file. So nasa desktop ko. So I have here second grading long test in MIL, then open. Then upload selected file. Okay. So kung napapansin nyo sa baba, doon sa verify submission, siyang nakalagay na copy paste is URL. This one will be distributed to your students kasi ito siya magiging link ng kanilang exam. So if I'm going to click this, copy this one. Okay, copy. Then place this to, ilalagay ko to sa URL. Then press enter. So kailangan mabuksan ng bata using his or her name, then the SIP grade student ID. So saan yun makikita yung SIP grade student ID? So balik ako doon. On this one, balik ako doon sa students. Pwede niyong idagdag yung mga pangalan ng bata. Ang ginagawa ko dito sa external number, ang kanila na ang school ID na lang namin na school number. Student ID and classes will be typewritten by you, and access code will be given by the SIP grade website. So paano yan siya? Let's say magdagdag ako ng estudyante, add student, okay, external. So school ID namin 30, 43, 80. First name, Michelle Palmera. So idadagdag ko siya sa MIL class to save student. Okay. Halimbawa, si Ma'am Michelle ang magti-take ng exam. So kailangan mabigay sa estudyante kay Ma'am Michelle itong student ID at sa ano yung first name na ginamit doon. So let us say ang student ID ni Ma'am Michelle is 37012. Pangalan niya is Michelle. So balik ako dito. Paste. Then i-click ko itong agreement box. Then start quiz. Okay. Nandito question na siya dito. Ang gagawin na lang ng estudyante is to click next and tuloy siya doon sa kanyang pagsasagot. Okay? Okay. So balik, close ko ito siya. Kung tapos na si Ma'am Michelle lahat, malalagay doon sa zip grade ninyo kung nakasagot si Ma'am Michelle at na-check na. Okay? So, ito, then quizzes, first quarter exam in MIL. Ayan. So, kung hahanapan tayo ni Ma'am Sheila ng dito na sagot sa letter ilang percent kita yung sagot ng mga bata. Okay? So, kung nakasagot na sila lahat, malalagay dito ang pangalan kung sino yung nakasagot at score ng mga bata at percentage na basihan doon sa score ng mga estudyante. Okay? So, that's all. Questions? Mabilisan? Okay, Ma'am Debs. So buhay, hello ma'am, naka-mute ka ma'am.
Hello, Sir Mel.
Yes ma'am.
If you are giving the
So buhay
test
na buhay pa rin ang subgrade.
Yeah. Yes, sir, ganahan ko. Pero sir, kung 50 kabuk akong bata nga tagaan, 50 pud kabuok ko magsigi og enter ato ilahang ID. Dili pwede i-click, wala i-click na lang para ma-send sa ilang tanan.
Student mo siya MIL o AAP. So sa isa at saka yung student will be provided. Hello Ma'am Debs.
Yes, sir.
Okay, question? Mas madali sa zip grade kasi yung exam natin na ginawa, na na-evaluate, i-convert lang natin siya ng PDF, yun pa rin siya ang lalabas doon na insakto na exam sa internet. So, hindi na kailangan i-type katulad sa Microsoft Forms at saka Google Forms. So question, so if you are still subscribing Zipgrade, buhay na buhay pa rin ang Zipgrade sa online. All you need to do is to use that and follow the instruction that I gave. Tutorials for Zipgrade, Microsoft Forms, and Google Forms are placed in the internet. So you can open the site, then watch the tutorial.
How much daw, sir, is the zip grade? 350 pa rin?
350 pa rin, ma'am. Ang ginawa namin sa ma'am, sa Pablo, ay tatlong departments, parang nasa 30, isang username at isang password lang ginamit namin. Magkaiba lang kami ng subject na pinasok doon sa Zipgrade.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So that's all. So if you are planning to use Zipgrade for your online as counterpart to our module or face-to-face periodical test, you can use Zipgrade.
Sir Mel.
Yes, ma'am.
There is a question from Ma'am Cecil.
Yes,
Naa ba
ma'am.
time limit sa zip grade kay basi magkopyahanay ang mga bata?
Okay. Ma'am, doon sa baba, yung sa score ng mga estudyante, may nakalagay doon if you would like to set up a time limit for your student. The default time limit is 1 hour and 30 minutes.
So the teacher will be the one to set the default. Sige, sir.
Yes, ma'am. To change. Yun pa rin naman, kung sa bahay pa sila mag-exam, di naman kung tutulo ba sila ng parents o sila lang ang magsasagot doon sa exam. Pwede din ba in random ang question po? Pwede, ma'am. Pwede. Ma'am, hindi na po siya masya-shuffle kasi naka-lock na po yung PDF na nalagay nyo doon sa inyong Zipgrade. So, hindi po siya masya-shuffle. Masya-shuffle lang po if you are using Microsoft Forms and Google Forms. Pero sa Zipgrade, hindi po siya masya-shuffle.
So, sir, if they want to shuffle, dito na lang sa ilahang word.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Naka-PDF kasi siya, hindi na siya ma-shuffle. Malak jud siya. Okay? So, are there questions? I wish to discuss about Microsoft Forms. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Ang pag-check out,
Ma'am
sir,
Debs?
scan lang?
Ay, ma'am, yung nabigay natin na answer key, oo. Nabigyan na natin yung answer key before we download the PDF test, PDF format of our test, ma'am. So, nandoon na yung answer key. So, ang mapupunta sa atin, makikita natin sa Zipgrade yung result, item analysis, and discrimination, item discrimination, and ano yung isa kay Ma'am Sheila. So, yung hinihingi ni Ma'am Sheila, nandun na rin siya. So, hindi na kailangan pang mag-compute sa Zipgrade.
Yes.
Kung dili ma-shuffle ang items, pwede ba malik ang answers? Dili na reliable? Talking about leaking of answers, yun pa rin naman, ma'am, kung ibibigay natin ang test paper,
yes,
hindi mo din pwede sa classroom. Oh, so kung ibibigay natin ang test paper sa bata, so ang bata magte-take ng exam sa bahay. Whereas doon sa Zipgrade, you will be the one to set the time, to set the date, to make the time limit of the students. So pero kukunti na lang siguro ang leakage. Hindi man din nila makikita ang answer. Kasi automatic after, you will be the one to give the score. The answers will no longer be seen by the students after that. Okay. So, when it comes to reporting, mas madali siya, ma'am, kasi isasubmit na lang yung item analysis natin doon kay Ma'am Shella. Okay. Are there questions? Sir Mel, meron po ba lock date? Yes, ma'am, meron siyang lock date. Virtually na ang cheating. Meron ngang reality checking. Dili man siya ata ma-virtual, ma'am, because virtual ba? How do they know that that is the correct answer? Yun pa rin naman sa bahay eh. Makaka-minimize lang tayo ng cheating kung nasa classroom, pero when it comes to allowing our students to take exam sa bahay or sa internet, meron pa rin talaga.
Yes. Honesty manggod is
Okay. No more question. Okay, this time we're about to end the session, but please be reminded of the date of submissions, and that will be given to us by our Education Program Supervisor, Dr. Mayan Humuan. May.
Okay. Hi, everyone. It's been a pleasure being with all of you today. Despite all the technical glitches earlier, no, we still were able to manage to stay in this platform and be resilient. So I guess those are the perks of the new normal, and we have to get used to that because those things are inevitable. So I hope that you make use of what you have learned from this webinar today. And thank you very much for being here and for taking the time to patiently listen to what all our competent presenters had to say. But before we end, I would like to present the schedule for the summative test construction. Mitch?
Yes, ma'am. Wait lang, ma'am.
Can they present the schedule, please? So I would like to congratulate all the speakers. I would like to start off with Michelle Palmera, Dr. Palmera. Thank you very much. Sir Ernie Baclaan, Sheila Alemania, Ma'am Devs, and Sir Mel. Thank you very much for sharing your talent with all of us here. So I hope sa uulitin, we could still invite you for another webinar for a different topic. Are we okay now, Mitch?
Ma'am May,
For a while lang, ma'am.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, Jane.
For the reminder lang po for the deadline of the submission of the module for the first quarter.
Yes.
It should be today.
Do you have the ano? Yes, June 30, di ba?
Yes, ma'am.
I hope everyone is done na, or maybe parang polishing na lang sana, no?
Yes, ma'am.
So, we're reminding our validators to please
Ma'am,
gather.
with regards
Yes,
to July 3 na imuhang gihatag sa ako ang deadline. So, are we going to extend it na lang?
What, July 3? What do you mean?
July 3
I am giving until the first week of July for the submission. So I'm extending it for a week.
Yes, ma'am.
For polishing. Kasi there are a lot of, some of the validators kasi they're asking me, because some of the writers, parang kulang daw ng illustrations and all, because our illustrators are very limited lang, di ba?
Yes,
we don't have that much number eh. So,
yes,
some even, si Ma'am Jess, I remembered, she asked her son to make an illustration for her. So, diskarte na lang. So, I am giving an extension of 1 week.
Okay.
For to polish all the modules.
So until July 3. So July 6 na lang kung mag-expect, ma'am, to receive the outputs.
Yes, Jane. Yes, Jane.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Jane. So let's go back to our schedule for the English summative test construction. So for second quarter. Nabaliktad lagi ni Mitch.
For why?
ang first quarter, ang first quarter na nasa pinakababa. Naunsa ni?
Ano na lang?
Sige na lang.
Alan. For why, ma'am?
Well, sige, tanaw na ako diri if I have the copy. Pwede ninyo siya i-screenshot if nasa-settle na siya. So these are really the perks of the new normal, no? So daghang glitches and all. Today nga parang it started yesterday, Sir Mel. Ang glitches, no? Sa imuha murag nasa langob.
Sa ma'am. Mali gud ko.
Double imong voice. So, let's get used to this. Maani gid ay ang new normal. So okay na ka, Mitch? Okay, so ano ni baliktad pud to ganina, Mitch?
Ambot.
Weird siya. Anyway. Weird siya. Okay, sige. Let's start off. For the first quarter test construction, we have July 1 to July 5. Submission to validators will be in July 6, Monday. Submission from validator to division consolidator will be on July 10, Friday. For the second quarter test construction, our schedule will be on July 6 to 10. Submission to validators, July 13, Monday. Submission from validator to division consolidator will be on July 17, Friday. Third quarter test construction, July 13 to 17. Submission to validator is July 20, Monday. Submission from validator to division consolidator will be on July 25, Friday. For the fourth quarter test construction, July 20 to 24. Submission to validators, July 27, Monday. Submission from validator to division consolidator will be on July 31, Friday. So I hope that is very clear sa ating lahat. Doble-doble na. We still have our modules. Now we have our test construction. So hopefully kakayanin natin. So we have the same setup with our module write shop. Okay? The process will still be the same. Validators will have to have a personal GC with his or her own set of test developers. Then the validators will have to evaluate the work of the test developers and return it back for application of corrections. Then the test developers will return back the corrected documents to the validator. Then validators will submit directly to the division consolidator. The division consolidator for elementary is still Christine Montero. For the secondary, Jane Helbolingo. For senior high school, I would like to request Ma'am Devs with the assistance of Fatima Bringas to compile all those finished outputs, no? So, compile lang natin siya according sa grade level for elementary and junior high school and subject for overall consolidator natin. Okay. And subject for the senior high school. Yung ating overall consolidator will be Sir Melanio Florino. He will be our official publisher and distributor of our outputs. So, do you have any clarifications as to the schedule? Okay na ba?
Hello, Ma'am May.
So, wala na? Yes,
Hello,
Sir Mel.
Ang grupo ng per year level yung gumawa ng ADM.
Same. Same
ma'am.
group, Sir Mel. Kasi yung Sir Mel, our writers will still be our test developers. So, kunwari, he is assigned, that particular writer is assigned to write on that particular competency, then he or she is also assigned to write questions about that particular competency. So, siguro sa distribution of items, you'll have to agree with your validator. So, kaya nga, I told you na you have to make your own GC so that you can make a TOS. Di ba yung ginawa ni Sir, the one that was presented by Sir Ernie kanina, yung TOS. That should be the first step na gagawin nila. So, they have to finish. Siguro, the validator will be the one to assign. Di ba, naka-list na doon yung competencies? And in each competency has their assigned writer on that. So,
Okay,
si
ma'am.
validator na ang mag-assign kung how many items is that particular writer going to
Mm.
do for this particular ano.
Mami,
Yes, yes.
Mami,
Ah,
pwede po
Tin, Tin.
mag-ask,
Yes,
ma'am,
Tin.
regarding the
Hello, ma'am
distribution
May.
of competencies
Yes,
po, since you mentioned that
yes.
we will be the one to assign the
Mm-mm.
number of competencies, the number of
Mm-mm.
items. Kasi
Mm-mm.
previously we consider the number of days
Yes, yes.
that particular competency was taught. So that's how we divide the number of items. So right now, since we
Mm-mm.
are using the MELCs na and it was not indicated yet, di ba ma'am, kung how
Mm-mm.
many days we have to teach that particular competency. So what is our basis, ma'am, in the distribution of the competencies in the number of items po?
Okay, it depends. Di ba we have 50 items talaga, no?
Po?
We have 50 items
50
on a
items?
particular.
Yes, ma'am. Tapos,
Oo, 50 items. So doon na. Oo.
Before
Yes.
good, ma'am, we look at the number of days na teach ang isa ka particular na competency, and that's how we divide the number of questions kung unsa kadaghan ang questions sa isa ka competency. So I don't know karon kung unsaon na to para na ami idea, ma'am, as to the how we are going to divide the ma'am ba number of items in a competency.
Do you have any? Okay, we would like to ask the opinion of our speakers on this. Like si Sir Ernie kaya being the assigned speaker on the TOS, or Ma'am Des for that matter. What could be your opinion on this? With regards to, kasi this is a new normal na eh. So this is something that we have to agree on at this very moment. So I would like to have their opinion on this. Siguro ganito na lang din. We will have to agree on this muna. We will have a meeting first, and then that's the time that we are going to. Ano na lang. We will just post it on the GC kung what will be our basis in coming up with a distribution. Ganun na lang ha. So we still have to agree on this. This is the new normal, so everything is new.
Yes.
So yeah, that is something that we have to really just embrace.
Yes,
The
ma'am.
change.
So
Okay.
wait na lang mi ma'am.
Just wait. We will just post and we will just meet among ourselves muna and then come up with a plan. Okay?
Okay po. Thank you.
Sige, para klaro na. Sige.
Pamuan.
Okay. Yes, Ma'am Devs.
Pwede after dayon, ani, kay para mahuman
Yes. Oh, para diretso na. Dili na ta Sige, meet lang ta later ha. Sa lang, kaning PM lang ta later. So, if you have more questions and clarifications, you just have to address those questions to the GC. Yes.
Maisel,
Yes.
ma'am.
Yes, Miss
Baka
Maisel.
pwede pod i-consider na ma-move pod ang submission, ma'am, murag sayura kaayo ng
Sayura,
dates na
Sayura
gi-present
bitaw,
ninyo,
ma.
ma'am. Wala pa gay nahuman ang modules, ma'am.
Gani, ma'am.
Okay, that is
Layo-layo
something
pa
that
man
we
na
have.
ang test, ma'am.
Okay, kana isapod na siya sa ato ang meetingan siguro in a short while, no? So mag-wait na lang ta ha for further kuan. Anyway, we are open to change naman, and kaya nga sa new normal, everything is new. So i-embrace na to ang change. So at this point, kung na yung mga kuan, we have to be flexible. So kung na yung mga na mo adjust ta. So siguro you just have to wait for any further announcement about kung na by change when it comes to the schedule. Ha? Even our our government sige usab-usab no. GCQ, ECQ unsa ba ni dagag mga changes. So kita po we have to adjust. So mag-wait lang ta Miss Maisel for any announcement if there is an extension as to the deadline. Okay.
Thank you.
Ma'am, addendum.
Yes. Yes, sir, ma'am.
May seminar tayo bukas, ma'am, yung sa DepEd training, training.deped.gov.ph. English po.
Bago na po.
English po yung naka-assign, ma'am, about LMS, ma'am, Learning Management.
Okay, yes, na siya. 2 to 5 p.m.
No.
I'm reminding the LMS test development team Gamay ra to sila Mr. Chato, isa pa to si Mr. Romel, Kaha, si
Yes, ma'am.
Mitch,
Kuan man gud ma'am murag
and other.
murag nakoy huna-huna mababasig didto ipabutang ang exam.
Ha? Sana pud na. Sige, tanaw na nato,
Basig
Sir Mel.
ma'am. Sige ma'am.
Oo, lahi na pud na siya eh. Ang butoy daghan na kaayo. But anyway, we will just post announcement kung sa man nato masagap dito to for tomorrow.
Sige, I will question ni Ma'am Tin. Sige, i-post ko ang link tomorrow, Ma'am Tin.
I-park sa ng mga questions.
Are there questions?
Wala na siguro. I-post lang daw na nila. Shopping ako?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, it means na gigutom na siguro ang mga tao.
It's 11:51. Okay.
Sige na, kayo mag-meet pa tayo in a short while. So, okay na. Okay na ta. Mag-picture pa ta, Sir Mel. Mag-picture pa.
Mag-picture sa ta, ma'am. Ma'am
Sige,
Michelle,
po.
please turn off the presentation. Please turn on your camera, please. Okay. Okay, at the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, smile. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay. Yay!
Okay, so salamat. That will conclude today's webinar. Thank you to all our presenters for your expertise, and thanks to all of you for joining us. See you soon, and may God bless us all. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Yes.
Bye, everyone.
Mamayan. Mamayan.
Isa tong nanawag.
Ma'am Develin,
Ma'am Debs, pabili na lang sa tadiri.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am Debs.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir Ernst, Ma'am Sheila, pabilin sa takadali, diri na lang ta. Pawas ang uban.
Kung saan yung has
Diba,
left,
una
sa pag-left.
Pag-left. I would like Ma'am Debs to stay, Ma'am Sheila, Sir Ernie, Sir Mel, Mitch. Pagpabilin mo, please.
Okay.
Ang evaluators man, pwede na mo leave?
Yes, pwede na mo leave ang evaluators.
Okay, thank
Pag-post
you,
lang
ma'am.
me later. Goodbye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Dalion na nato ni guys.
Nanette, I'll turn off the record button already, ha? Turn off ko na.
Yes. Turn off na.
Alright.
Yes,
Bye. Thanks, Tin.